Hi there folks. I'd like to show you an interesting accessory that I recently purchased for my Norinco 1911 pistol. This is a pistol that I've had for a few years. I don't use it an awful lot, but anyway, let's safety check it here to make sure there's nothing in it. Take the mag out, and it's clear. And this accessory is from the late 1980s. This is a Crosman Blaser 177 caliber pellet gun conversion. So if the weather is bad and you can't get to the range and shoot your 45 or your 38 Super or your 9mm 1911, this little unit will let you shoot your 45 inside. And as you can see, this came in the original box. This was sold in the US by Crosman. It was actually manufactured in Germany, or West Germany at the time. And you can see this example came with the manual and one of the other little promotional cards that was in it. And here we have it in the original box with the Crosman Blaser pellet gun conversion. These are a model 455 Crosman. So if you come across one of these and you don't have a manual, you can go to the Crosman website and download a manual from them. These were sold in the US by another firm, I believe, as well as Crosman. I think it was Blaser USA sold those, and in Germany they were manufactured by Blaser, who is a high-end sporting arm manufacturer, and they were made 1987, 1988. Let's see, I did some research online. The German price back in 1988 was, I think it was close to 300 Deutschmarks, which is about $165 US at the time. They feature CO2 operation, and they have a rifled steel barrel. The body of the conversion unit, if I can get it freed up here from the packaging, which is quite tight, the body of the unit is actually a die casting. So basically there are two components to this. There is the conversion unit itself, this part here, which replaces the slide. And like I said, that's a die casting. It has a rifled steel barrel, which apparently was supplied by Lothar Walter barrels. Let's see, what else can we tell you about it? It is a single shot, so it does kind of limit what you can do with it because it is a single shot conversion unit. It doesn't let you fire repeat shots as does your original 1911 pistol. Let's see, what else did we find out online? Developed in 1986 by a German named Victor, I guess it's IDL. I hope I said that right. I probably didn't because I usually mess up foreign names and languages. Let's see. These today sell for quite a variety of prices. I got this one, which is really in excellent shape. There's only, one little mark on the paint, and it barely looks used. I got this one for $40 Canadian, so that's, pretty cheap. I've seen them online. People have sold them on auctions for about $100 US. You'll see other people selling these, and they want, $150 to as high as $300 for them, which is kind of absurd. They are a little bit of a collector's item, I guess, to people who collect Crosman airgun stuff. I have a few Crosman airgun items myself. I'm not a hardcore collector by any means, but mostly got it as an interesting curiosity and perhaps something to mess with during the bad weather that we get up here. Anyway, installation is fairly straightforward. This just sits on top of your 1911 frame. As far as I know, it should work on any full-sized single-column 1911 of the standard sort of Colt military sort of style, 7, 8-shot magazines, single column. I don't think it would work with a reduced, like a officer's model or anything with a shorter grip frame, because this adapter I don't think would have the right dimensions, although this could conceivably be shortened up and rethreaded to work with a shorter framed gun. This little cover that goes at the front of the dust cover might be in the wrong spot, but basically this is meant for a full-sized Colt style gun. The instructions and so forth mention Colt Series 70 and earlier, so I don't know if it'll work with a Series 80 Colt that has that funny firing pin disconnect business going on or not. I don't have one of those to try it in, so I can't really comment on that. Anyway, I'm just going to take the frame off this Norinco, and the Norinco is a pretty much a military pattern frame. There's really not a whole lot different with the frame other than the parts that are added to it are a little different. But so we'll take the slide off here. I'll push the slide stop out, and we'll just slide the complete slide assembly off the top, and we'll set that aside. Keep the springs in place; they don't go flying off into the next cavity. So with the frame stripped down like that, we need to put the slide stop back in because this unit actually indexes on the slide stop. So we'll put the slide stop back in place. You can see how it sticks through the frame right there. And on the conversion unit, you'll notice at the bottom there's this component here with a notch through it, and that actually sits down on top of the slide stop to index it. Then there's this threaded boss at the bottom backside of the conversion unit that sticks down where the magazine would go down, and this threaded piece here threads into that, and the clamp, this basically acts as a clamp from the bottom. This goes up through the magazine well, and this clamps the conversion unit on top of your frame. So very simple to install. Just simply line these up like that. You want the hammer back, by the way, when you do this. You don't want the hammer to get in the way. So just line that up, and it just sits right on top like that. Nothing complicated at all. And take your clamp and insert this in the bottom, pretty much where the magazine would go. You can see that this bottom part intersects with the magazine well, and we've got a knob here with a spring on it, and just push that ahead till it goes into the hole where that threaded boss is, and tighten this up. And that's how simple and easy it is to install this unit on your frame. So that's all there is to installation. Now this just gives you a single shot CO2 pellet gun basically for indoor practice, or I guess you could use it outdoors. Where I live, the only place I can use a pistol is on a range. Even though this is a CO2 pistol, it's still on a registered firearm component, so keep that in mind when you go to use one of these things, that you do have the gun part of a gun still attached to it. So the legal restrictions where you live for firearms may still apply. I'm going to assume that they do, and I'm only, the only place I can really use this is at home, because I'm not actually discharging a firearm, I am discharging an air gun. But be careful where you use something like this, because you could get into hot water dependent upon your jurisdiction. So the controls act pretty much as they would the safety controls anyway. The safety catch still works as it should. The hammer, the half cock position of the hammer still functions. The grip safety still works on this in this case, because of course the bottom of the frame is unaffected by the top portion of the conversion unit, so you need to have the grip safety depressed in order to let the hammer go ahead. Obviously the magazine release doesn't do anything anymore because the magazine is gone. Trigger pull is unaffected, and so forth. So let's have a look at the sights on this. The front sight is cast into the die-cast body, and you can see that it's a pretty good tall blade. The rear sight is adjustable, and it's steel, looks like a investment cast steel piece, and it's got a nice big profile with a big notch. Not sure how good of a job I can do on giving you a sight picture, but nice big square sights, kind of suitable for target work. And you can see that this is on an inclined surface here, and this has a slot in the top of it and a screw. So to adjust the sights, you loosen the screw, and you can see these serrations underneath the sight, which it kind of indexes with. That lets you move it up and down in steps. You can also slide it side to side. So all your windage and elevation adjustments are done with the rear sight. So it's a pretty good looking sight. The loading port is this piece here, which moves from the left side of the pistol to the right. You can see how it works like that. Pushed out to the right is the load position, and that exposes the loading port back down here, and you can see there's a scalloped away portion of the frame or the conversion unit which allows you to insert a pellet, and you can see that there's a seal there to seal the CO2 gas in that side, and there's also another seal on the other side to seal it from that side. So this is a fairly snug fitting part. There's also a little block on the bottom here with a screw, and that allows you to take this whole piece out. And as far as I can tell, it looks like you should be able to take this whole sliding unit out and turn it around and put it in from the other side if you want to feed the pellets in from the other direction, because the scallop portion is here as well. I haven't tried that myself, but I think you could reverse this. It looks to be the kind of thing you could take it out, flip it over, put it in the other direction if you want it to load from the other side. But this works pretty good for a right-hander. You can hold the pistol in your right hand and insert a pellet with your left hand. But if you were left-handed, it might be nice to flip that thing around so you could load it more conveniently. So with a CO2 already in the gun, to load, you're going to want to put the gun on either half cock or put it on full cock and put the safety catch on. And then you want to push the port over to the side and insert your pellet. I better go grab a pellet. Alright, I've got a tin of very old Crosman 177 pellets, or 0.45 millimeters. Somebody in Germany said that you could turn your 45 into a 4.5, which I guess is sort of true. So to load, here's one of these old and rather oxidized pellets. We can just drop it into that loading scalloped loading area there. Make sure you push the skirt of the pellet in flush or a little deeper, otherwise you're going to be pinching the back of the skirt against that edge, and just shove it over. And with that simple act done, the pistol is ready to fire. So to fire, you simply put the safety off and squeeze the trigger. The nice thing about a conversion unit is you're using your standard trigger on your full-size frame, so you can get used to the same trigger pull and so forth and so on. So eventually, after you shoot this thing, you're going to run out of CO2, and that will take somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 60 to 80 shots. At least that's kind of what people are saying online, and my limited experience with this thing would lead me to believe that that's a reasonably accurate number. So you basically have to disassemble the conversion unit from the frame to replace the CO2. So we're just going to reverse the process of putting this thing on. We're going to take the frame and separate it from the conversion unit, and this will give us an opportunity to show you the CO2 cartridge, which is kind of parallel to the barrel, and it is accessed through this threaded plug in the front. One thing that I think is missing from this kit is the little wrench that came with it. I think these came with a wrench, a little stamped steel wrench. It's kind of hard to tell if that only went with the German units or the American market units. At any rate, you can use a coin to unthread, if I can get a good purchase on this thing, and get that started. And this is notched around the edges to get your fingers on it as well. So that plug just unscrews, and it is kind of cup-shaped on the end to push on the CO2 cartridge. You can see the end of the cartridge right there, so you can just push it out the front, the expended one. And you can see that the cartridge has been pierced at the end by the piercing pin, which is located, it's kind of hard to tell, but way inside there. I don't know if if we got enough light on it or not, but there is a piercing pin down in here, and around that piercing pin is a seal to seal the end of the neck of the cartridge, CO2 cartridge. So these use a standard size 12 gram CO2 cartridge. This is kind of an interesting thing. This is Brass Eagle brand CO2 made in Japan, and this hole that the CO2 cartridges fit in is made to such an exact fit that you can't actually get this CO2 into the gun unless you take the sticker on it that has the name brand. See, this is a basically a zinc coated steel cylinder, and it's got a printed label stuck on it, and that label makes it big enough that it won't actually go in to the gun with the label on. You might be able to jam it in there, but it wouldn't be a good idea. This is actually the same brand of cartridge as this one. I took the label off it, and with the label off, it will go right in. I don't think you'd have a problem with Crosman brand CO2s. I think they're printed right directly on the metal instead of having a label printed on them. So anyway, to recharge the gun, you want to take a tube of this Crosman Pelgun oil, and you want to put a little drop of that on the end of the CO2 like that, and then you would insert it into the gun. I'm not going to actually put a fresh one in this because I'm not going to use it right away, but you put a little bit of oil on there, and that, when it's ruptured, that oil will get blown into the seals and help lubricate the mechanism of the conversion unit. Alright, I'm back from letting my impatient dog in. He was at the back door barking. Anyway, to recharge this, we'll just pretend that this used cylinder is a new one. We would put a drop of oil on that, insert it down into the CO2 area in the front of the conversion, take our threaded plug, start that by hand, and we'll get that to the point where it will be snug. And then once it snugs up to the point where you can feel a bit of resistance, you want to take your wrench or coin and then quickly tighten it up, because if you don't do this fairly quickly, the CO2 cartridge, once it's punctured, will leak out around the edge. So you want to do that fairly quickly, tighten it up, not ridiculously tight, just tight enough to contain the pressure. And with that done, you are good to go. Again, you got another 60 odd shots to go before, 60 to 80 shots, depending upon the brand of cartridge and the air temperature. I think you get more shots in cooler temperature at lower speed and fewer shots at higher temperature with higher speed with the CO2 cartridge, because basically the liquid CO2 evaporates into a gas at different rates depending on the temperature. Let's have a look at the instruction manual that came with the conversion kit. It's one of those things that may be missing from these units if you buy one second-hand. Well, that's the only way you're going to find one, because they haven't been made for a long time. So we'll just have a quick look through. This manual is available online for download, like a PDF from Crosman, and they give you the diagram there with all the various components. So this might save a few people downloading this manual. If they don't want to, they can pause the video and look at each page as they so desire. So it tells you how to load, unload, and they give you the usual safety warnings about a safe backstop, etc. How to remove a jammed pellet. Caution about backstops. More safety, location, safety, don't shoot at hard surfaces, yada yada. Some specifications. Muzzle velocity up to 380 feet per second. I chronographed some pellets and they were doing about 350, 355 feet per second with the Crosman brand pellets that I had. Repair service. Unfortunately, I think you can't really get much in the way of parts for these. I think you might be able to get a couple of the seals because they're pretty much interchangeable with another product, but I don't think Crosman actually stocks repair parts for these anymore. So that's all the manual's about. So I guess we'll just sort of summarize. By the way, thanks for sticking with me. Pretty long review at this point in time. This thing has its limitations. It is, you know, kind of an indoor target shooting type of conversion unit only. With the small caliber and the low velocity, it's really not suitable for any kind of hunting purposes. It's really much too weak for anything like that. So this is pretty much a paper punching setup. and because it's only single shot, it does limit the kind of things you can do with your pistol as far as replicating your usual function of a semi-auto. You're out of luck there, you've just got a single shot. But it does have the advantage of being very quiet. You could shoot this in probably any location that you know, and without disturbing anybody, because it is quite quiet. The noise from the pellet trap is almost louder than the sound of the pellet being fired. It's pretty cheap to shoot. 177 pellets or 4.5 millimeter pellets are pretty cheap. You're getting, you know, 60 to 80 odd shots out of a CO2 cartridge. If you purchase CO2 cartridges in bulk, they get to be pretty cheap. Even if you don't need a lot of them, you might have a friend who has a CO2 gun that might want some cartridges. You can split a bigger order. So it is fairly cheap per shot, and it is something you can use when the weather's bad indoors, and it's kind of an entertaining little toy. So it's not an international target quality item by any means. The accuracy is decent, but it's not super duper. You remember, this is a fairly economical item, so accuracy is okay. It's probably as good as anything in that price range for accuracy. It is, after all, a fixed barrel, good long sight radius, and you know, the trigger pull is limited by what's on your gun. If you got a decent trigger on your gun, you're going to have a decent trigger pull with your conversion kit. So anyway, just kind of an interesting item from the past that you might come across in your travels around gun shows or perhaps online, and I just thought I'd share that with you. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you later.